The old building at the corner of 3rd Street and Harrison Avenue has gone, but the Journal of J. Rex still survives as a reminder of former days. More than 10 days ago, the last vestige of the old place was pitched into a wagon and hauled off. There is not now a scrap of lumber, an old-fashioned square nail, or a piece of wallpaper to testify to the existence of what once was an imposing frame structure, the pride of the 79ers, with whom Rex associated. It is all gone, and only the journal remains in the possession of the workman who uncovered it from where it was hidden underneath the floorboards of the 2nd floor. In this sketch, Rex tells of how H.A.W. Tabor offered a free Thanksgiving dinner, and how he allowed the bartenders to take credit for the manifestation of charity. This is how the dinner was arranged, managed, and eaten, according to J. Rex. It struck me that a Thanksgiving in the barroom at $1 a plate would not be an uncharitable thing to arrange. It struck me so forcefully that I decided to arrange it. Of course, I was doing it for the delight of the boys who dropped their cash into the till every month. The fact that I would make a neat little profit for the boss and myself entered my mind also. The truth is, the latter idea stayed in my mind, and I fully decided to arrange for the dinner. So I printed some placards on the brown paper and hung them about the walls of the barroom. They were in ink and were not the most beautiful things in the world to look at. I was never any good at printing, but they conveyed the news and the news spread. Before a week had gone by, everyone from the Arkansas River to Friar Hill was talking about the big dinner that was to be served Thanksgiving afternoon and evening at $1 a plate. It would have been a big crowd Thanksgiving if it had not been for the intervention of H.A.W. Tabor, who is swimming in money. One night, Tabor came into the barroom for his evening nip. I served it. I suppose if these records are ever found, that any comment on Horace A.W. Tabor will be unnecessary, as I take it his name will live long after J. Rex is dead, longer than the building in which I am writing this evening, longer than anything in the state of Colorado. He tossed off the drink, pulled out a roll of notes, peeled a 20 from it, and slapped it down on the bar. I made the charge. He left $5 for the bartender. Then he rammed his hands into his pockets and started toward the faro table, but one of the placards caught his eye. His back was turned to me, but I guessed that he was scrutinizing the brown paper announcements of the Thanksgiving dinner. Fully 3 minutes he stood there with his elbows sticking back toward the bar. Then he grinned and came striding over to the bar. "Why don't you give that dinner free?" he asked in an impatient tone. I explained that the dinner of that kind was expensive and the proprietor of the place wasn't in the business for charity's sake. "How much will it cost to serve the dinner to every man in the camp who wants some turkey too?" he said. "I haven't figured it up in exact terms yet," I replied, and went to the desk to get some paper and a pencil. "Never mind the figures. I'm going to pay for that dinner. You can make it fit for a king. I'll foot the bill. You manage the affair and don't worry about the money, and invite everyone in camp to come." He then went over to one of the tables and sat down. So that night I made a number of new placards and posted them in the barroom. They announced the turkey dinner free, to be served all day Thanksgiving. The news spread around again. About 3 in the afternoon, the men began to roll in. They were hungry, but we fed them all. Tabor came as well and took a place at the table in the evening. Things went all right until a miner from Boston told a man from Kansas that he objected to seeing him eat with his knife. It'd be enlightening to note that the men were supplied with all they wanted to drink. Tabor had provided for that and was willing to pay for it all till 11 o'clock. Tabor tried to quiet them, but the Jayhawker went into shoveling potatoes and mince pie into his mouth with his knife. The man from Boston called him a great many names. When he had shoveled the last scrap of mince pie into his maw, he drew his coat sleeve across his mustache, stood up, and reached into his hip pocket. Others at the table saw him make the motion. It was a sign for a general scattering. Knives, forks, plates went clattering to the floor. Gravy and dressing was spilled on the chairs. Baked potatoes went rolling across the floor in the hurry to get away. They had all learned that it is not well to be exposed when a man reaches into his hip pocket. The man from Boston rose and made a little motion. Tabor had not moved from his chair. He was the only man who was going to sit it out. But I must spoil the story by jotting down that no one was shot. The pistols were not even drawn. that is, the pistols, the Bostonian, and the man from Kansas, it is part of my duty to settle these little disputes. So I took out my settler from under the bar and called across the barroom to the two men. "Sit down and be quiet." The rest of the dinner party that was hiding in the back room came back and got their fill. When I made up the bill for the affair, I tacked on 100 extra for J. Rex. I thought he might need it someday. Tabor paid and said that he thought it would be more. I have since been sorry that it wasn't for more, for I might need it one day. But it was a great day, and I got all the credit for it. Tabor never peeped a word about paying for it all. It does not bother me in the least to be given credit for that dinner. Tabor doesn't need the fame anyway. He's a big enough man as it is, and should feel thankful that I gave him the opportunity of allowing him to pay the expenses, plus the 100 which I may need someday.